stand for the Pledge of Allegiance that will be recited by Bardoni Elementary School students Joe Lorio, Jason Blotner, Victoria Conglianese, Jacob Mattheos, Caitlin Petrialis, and Eden Binder. Standing for a moment of reflection for Mary McDine, former bus assistant transportation. Thank you. Before we start, I just want to apologize for the late change of venue. Later in the day yesterday, I started to receive emails from people at Congers. I'm sorry. I wanted to apologize for the late change of venue. I started to receive emails late in the day yesterday regarding the possible crowd that we would have tonight. And so we made every effort to accommodate, so we moved the meeting to 7. So it seems like that was the right decision. Can I have a motion to adjourn from executive session?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Our next item is bond presentation, but I wanted to go over the ground rules in terms of questions again. It's going to be similar to last week when we get to comments from the floor on agenda items and then the comments at the end. The board administration is going to be in listening mode throughout, and then at the end, when there's board comments, we will have taken those throughout the meeting, and we will respond to some of the questions that might have been asked throughout the meeting. Okay. Item 1.04, bond presentation, Mr. Lane.
Good evening, everyone. We're going to, Dr. Morton and I are going to cover just some basic facts, some of which you may already know, some you may not know, as a basis for the discussion tonight. So we're going to start with what we sent out in a flyer. Most of you probably received this flyer. The bond that the board approved is $6.5 million. As you'll see in the banner up top, that's about $26 per homestead class user or a resident. It can go as low as 10 if we're successful in getting state aid, which I'll talk about in a minute. The reconstruction and reopening of Congers Elementary School includes about $1.6 million to reconstruct the original 1927 building gym walls, another $3 million to reconstruct the original 1927 north and east side exterior walls, roof replacement, along with north and east wall sections, another $900,000. And then ADA accessibility, we need to include some ADA accessibility in order to make the project approved, get the project approved, $350,000. And then window replacements, $573,000. Now, we needed more than that for windows. If you remember, when we had CS Arch here, we talked about a number that was closer to $900,000 for windows, and the total bond of somewhere between 6.9 and 7 million. However, the board settled on 6.5 million, so somewhere during the project, we're going to have to determine which windows we won't do. So that's a decision for another day. The cost of the average taxpayer, as I say here in the flyer, is $10 to $26. We use 26 up top because that's the worst case scenario, assuming we don't get aid. I'm going to talk about aid at the end here. At the end of this flyer, you see that we We represent that we're a school that gets 55% in aid, and so if we're successful, that changes the amortization schedule, the debt service, and how we have to repay this. On the next, Trump, would you flip it? On the next slide, and this is posted on our website if you haven't seen it, is there'll be 4 polling locations, North High School, Lakewood, Link, and West Nyack. Voting eligibility, absentee ballots. Our district clerk has been very busy handing out applications for absentee ballots, so I think there's been quite a bit of activity on all sides of this thing. I just want to add one thing about aid. We have a representative from the state coming down on Monday evening to meet with Dr. Morton and I, along with 3 board members, Mike, Joe, and Chris. This was set up by way of Dr. Morton and I and some board members met with Ken Zabrowski, our assemblyman, and he put some pressure on the state, who in turn offered up Carl to come down and meet with us. So we're going to do that Monday night, and some of you have heard, and there's a buzz about what the number of spare rooms there are. And so what the state has done is ask for copies of our floor plans, which we provided, and then they ask for copies of our enrollment, which we provided. And so they do a simple mathematical calculation based on what they believe class size should be, not what our actual class size is, what they believe class size should be. And they take enrollment and divide it up into the rooms, and they came up with a number that says, based on their calculations, we should have 71 spare rooms. Now, if you go around from elementary school to elementary school, you're not going to come up with 71 rooms. You're going to come up with a number that's less than 10. And what their position is, well, that's how you're using the space. We're saying you have capacity if you use the space differently. So the debate Monday night will be about that. Both numbers are right. They're just measuring 2 different things. The state's measuring what they believe the capacity to be based on taking our enrollment and dividing by what they believe the class size should be, etc. And what our principals have done is say, yeah, but based on how we're using the buildings today, we have far fewer spare classes. And we're hoping, Monday night we can have this discussion and maybe a little bit of a debate and go through that. So you're hearing both numbers. One's not right and one's wrong. They're measuring different things. And so the trick will be Monday night to try and come up with some compromise with the state to get them to change their position on aid. So that's kind of the math and the framework of what's in the bond. I know Dr. Morton is going to talk a little bit about what happens if the bond passes, if the bond doesn't pass, redistricting, etc. So, Dr. Morton?
Thank you, John. The board asked me to provide to them recommendations if the Congers bond is successful or if the Congers bond is not successful. And I made that presentation at the January 9th Board of Education meeting. What I'd like to do tonight is to go over that recommendation again. What I did for the community is I put it in a format of frequently asked questions, and that was available, I believe, in the back of the room today, and it is on our website. What I will do is I will go over the key points of those frequently asked questions right now by way of summary of what I said on January 9th and the explanation of what these charts mean on the papers in front of you. First of all, this proposal provides a recommendation to the board for either case in terms of the Congers bond. If the bond should fail, there is a permanent recommendation for the Congers student. If the bond should be successful, there is a temporary recommendation for the Congers student and a recommendation to the Board of Education for some longer-term discussions about a permanent solution for the district. And let me start off with the recommendation as to where the Congers students will go next year, regardless of whether or not there is a passage of the bond. It is my recommendation that we do not continue leasing St. Augustine School, that the Congers students are integrated into Lakewood and New City Elementary Schools. On the first page of this handout, there is a chart that talks about the current enrollment, the Congers class 2013 enrollment. We do not have pre-kindergarten numbers, obviously, but we do have kindergarten through 4th grade. And those numbers respectively are 33, 25, 37, 32, and 47. It is my recommendation that for the 2014-15 school year, those students will be broken up as follows. In 1st grade, 13 students go to Lakewood, 20 students go to New City. In 2nd grade, 17 students go to Lakewood, 8 students go to New City. 3rd grade, 28 students go to Lakewood, 9 students to New City. 4th grade, 16 in each building. 5th grade, 29 students in Lakewood, 18 in New City. Those numbers are as of January 15th. It is important to realize that that's a slice in time. Those numbers may change up or down depending on any registrations or moves out of the town, and certainly they will change in some way, shape, or form depending on the kindergarten registration, which will not happen until next month. The concern is that students would be moved by family and by neighborhood rather than individually, so there will be definitely some change in those numbers as time evolves when we have those registrations for kindergarten. There was some concern verbalized to me about the fact that special ed students are not considered in this plan. Special education students programs are designed by Arnold Fucci, our Director of Special Services, and that will continue as it always has continued. It must be understood that the superintendent or the Board of Education cannot overrule Mr. Fucci in developing an IEP. His job is to take care of students. Our job is to find a way to fund what they have recommended for students, and that won't change no matter what happens with the bond. There is a little chart on the second page of the paper that describes the differences if the bond is passed or if the bond does not pass. And with concern to 4 different areas. The first area is redistricting. If the bond does pass, it'll be the recommendation to the Board of Education that they consider redistricting all the schools in the district. If there are 10 schools that are available to be used, it is essential that the board takes a look at the best way to use those schools. Everybody knows there's some financial situations going on in our district, and the board is going to have to make some very difficult decisions as to how the best way to handle the staffing and the filling of these schools with students in that way. As far as redistricting, if the bond fails, that answer is pretty straightforward. The only movement of students will be from Congers into New City and Lakewood. There will be no other movement of students in any other school building. As far as class size goes, if the bond passes, the board is going to have some discussions, as I said, about having consistent class size across the district. If the bond fails, the students will be put in New City and Lakewood elementary schools by a chart which I will share with you in a couple seconds. It is important to note that these class sizes are pretty much in order with the other buildings, smaller than some, bigger than others, and there is still room left at each school for expansion, should there be a need to do so. The tax increase is pretty straightforward. Cost per year is $26. The state has said they will not fund our project right now. And we will find out more about that Monday night. If that changes, the amount will change to $10. And that is an average cost for a house that's assessed at $140,000. And the tax levy will go up by a quarter of 1% for businesses, excuse me. And if the bond is voted no, obviously there'll be no additional increase because there will be no additional cost. As far as the Congers School building goes, if the bond passes, it'll take somewhere between 1.5 and 2 years to do the repairs. If the bond fails, obviously there will not be any change in the building, but it'll have to be secured. On the top of the third page, we talk about the exact listing of the size of the classes in each of the buildings. And again, I do want to emphasize that this is a slice in time as of January 15th. These numbers will definitely change. I do not know how they will change. That will be reflective of how many kindergarten students have siblings in other grades, and if there is any movement up or down in the enrollments in each of the two schools. But as of right now, in New City Elementary School, first grade will have 3 sections of 18 to 19 students in each. Second grade will have 2 sections of 23 students in each. Third grade will have 3 sections of 20 to 21 students in each. Fourth grade will have 3 sections of 21 to 22 students in each. Fifth grade will have 3 sections of 25 to 26 students in each. And again, kindergarten is an unknown at this point in time. Lakewood, first grade, 4 sections of 20 to 21 students. Second grade, 4 sections of 20 students. Third grade, 3 sections of 26 students. Fourth grade, 3 sections of 23 to 24 students. And fifth grade, 4 sections of 23 to 24 students. I do want to emphasize that this is pretty much what is done in each of our schools across the district. Some of our classes in different schools are higher than these numbers, and some in our different schools are lower than these numbers, but pretty much across the board the same. There is a concern about when and where parents will be informed, and teachers will be informed of what their assignments will be next year. That will happen in the normal course of events throughout the course of the year, as it does every year. The only difference will be there may or may not be a Congers school, and depending on that situation, students will be assigned to 3 buildings or to 2 buildings. Staff, likewise, will be assigned to appropriate settings in the building. The classes are being reduced from 45 classes to 38 classes, so there will be a reduction of 7 staff members. And that is something that will have to be determined as to where those folks will be. Obviously, there will be some new classes in Lakewood and New City, and teachers will be moved to those buildings wherever possible, but other staff members will have to be assigned throughout the district. There's a question about whether or not everybody will return as a group to Congers. If the bond passes and the school is built, that'll be a determination made at some future point in time. I'll repeat because the question continues to be asked. Why would you overfill the elementary schools in New City and Lakewood? They would not be overfull. The average class size will be between 22 and 23 students. The class ranges will range from a low of 18 to a high of 26. And as I said a couple of minutes ago, there are class sizes that are the same as in the other schools in our district, some of which are higher, some of which are about the same. The savings for closing the Congers Elementary School is somewhere in the area of $1.25 to $1.5 million. There will be an elimination of a principal position, a nurse position, 7 grade level teachers, 2 custodians, 1 nurse, 1 greeter, 1.5 clericals, and 2.5 non-core teachers, meaning the art, phys ed, music teachers. There will also be some additional TAs that will be eliminated, and that's yet to be determined how many and where. Special ed issues come up again. Special ed will be determined by Mr. Fucci, as it has been every year. The cost of special ed and the functions of special ed are really unrelated to the whole issue of the bond, one way or the other. Principal Ryan and Mr. Fucci will be meeting with parents to determine special ed plans, and as always, Mr. Fucci will run that operation. There is some concern about the amount of aid that we can get from the state. As you have heard repeatedly, Mr. Thurneau has informed the district that we will not be receiving any state aid. I have had conversations with Senator Carlucci and Assemblyman Zabrowski about that issue, and we are going to meet with the State Department of Ed people next week. There has also been some statements about laws about having a school building vacant for 2 years. According to Mr. Thurneau, and I will read his exact quote so there can be no confusion, as written there. Across the state, many districts are struggling with this issue. Some choose to leave vacant, and some choose to leave the buildings vacant in the event it is needed in the future, while others try to sell or lease the property for other purposes. These are local control issues. There is no law, rule, regulation, or guidance that determines how long a district may leave a facility vacant. The attorneys for the school district also offered us the same information when they checked the laws and regulations. So when you hear someone says we have to sell the building after 2 years or we have to knock it down, that is totally untrue. The polling locations are listed for you in the back of the sheets here. There has been a lot of communication. As I said, I made this presentation at the January 9th board meeting. Since that time, a number of reporters, PTA presidents, private citizens, and union officials have talked to me about the proposal, and I have shared with them pretty much what I'm sharing with you right now, and now it is in writing on our website so you can check it out. It is in written word now. There is a question about, can the school district and the Board of Ed support or not support a proposal, and they cannot use any public funds to do so. And then on the very last page, there is the polling locations and a repeat of the tax impact that was read to you earlier. It must be understood by the public that the superintendent's job is to make recommendations to the Board of Education. The Board of Education hires a superintendent to provide to them best recommendation based on experience and knowledge of schools. It is up to the Board of Education to vote on those recommendations. The board has the final say. Most of you were, not most of you, many of you were in this room not that many months ago when there was a discussion about going to St. Augustine's. And that information went back and forth with a couple different recommendations from the superintendent. And in the end, the recommendation was not approved by the Board of Education. So the board has the final say in the matter. It is the superintendent's job to make recommendations as he sees fit, he or she sees fit, in this case a he. What I read to you this evening, what I presented at the January 9th board meeting, is my best recommendation as to what should happen in the Clarkstown School District. So with that being said, to you, Mike.
I just have a couple of questions. So with this recommendation, we're not guaranteeing that the special ed kids will stay with the Congers group.
Did you jump on?
With this recommendation, with your recommendations, we can't guarantee that the special ed kids are going to stay with the Congers kids. They may end up going to another building.
No, what I deliberately did was I did not want to step on Mr. Fucci's professional decisions regarding special ed. They very well may be with the Congers students, but there are a number of factors involved in housing special education classes. In the Congers class specifically, I know there was some discussion prior to this whole event happening that there was some dialogue about changing some aspects of that program and the location of that program. Those things will come out from Mr. Fucci's office, as I said, with input from the principals in the Congers case, Principal Ryan, and the teachers. They will meet, they'll make some determinations, and then I will share those determinations with the Board of Education. And quite honestly, I just said the board determines everything. Quite honestly, you don't determine anything in special ed. You simply say yes and find a way to pay for it.
But we can't guarantee that they're going to stay.
No,
we don't have the room for them.
It'll be Mr. Fucci's recommendation.
Okay. Question two is, and I guess this is more for the boards just to think about, if and when the bond passes, why would we want to split kids up for a year to bring them back together for a year? Why wouldn't we just want to keep them together for another year? So I just want the board to think about that. You know, it doesn't make sense for kids to separate them, send them to two different schools to bring them back the following year. And my third question is, why, if we're going to redistrict, why are we only going to redistrict our district if the bond fails? Why aren't we going to do that if the bond passes too? You know, it seems to me that we're saying to the community, vote no. If you vote no, your kids will get moved. If you vote yes, the kids won't get moved. It's not.
Let me respond to that, Joe.
Yep. I'm not trying to put you on the spot. I just want an answer to that question.
I don't mind answering these questions. I've answered them to a lot of folks in the last 2 weeks. The board asked me to make a recommendation to them, as you know, for the two different scenarios, one if the bond passes and one if the bond does not pass. The easy solution, if it did not pass, was to affect only two other schools. The students fit into those schools within our board guidelines of student population, and that was an easy recommendation I made to the board to solve the issues of where we're going to house the Congers students. If in fact we have the Congers school building online the following year, I think it would be disingenuous to pass a referendum to fix a school and then not use the school.
No, I'm not saying that.
So I believe the board has to have some serious discussion about how best you would want to utilize the buildings you have. Obviously, when you look at the recommendation for just moving the Congers students into two other schools, that is something that can be done. Our students can be housed in less buildings than we have now, without impacting class size dramatically, staying within the board guidelines, and saving considerable, savings is a bad word to use, I'm sorry about that, with having a budget reduction of a considerable amount of money. The board needs to do that same thing if in fact there are 10 buildings, because you can see it's done easily with these 3 buildings. You may want to consider that other building. My recommendation to the board right now is that you do not want to go through anything like we've gone through in the last 6 months with the issue starting with the emotional level at nearly 100%. And taken away from our ability to sit and talk. a much lower level of emotion. It would be my recommendation that you don't do anything for the remainder of this year and take a year to study this issue and make some thoughtful recommendations to the community if that bond is passed.
I just think this sends a negative message to the community, that if you vote yes, your kids are going to get moved. If you vote no, I'd rather you withdrew that piece and just said, well, look at that as a factor at some point, rather than saying to the community, if you vote yes, this is going to happen. If you vote no, this is going to happen. You know, I just think, you know, I think we're pitting people against each other again here, just like we did with the bond.
I understand your opinion, Joe, and I would suspect that most Congers Village residents would share that opinion. I do need to share with the board and the public that the board gave me the task of making a recommendation to you if the bond fails and if the bond passes, and that is what I did. I'm not trying to make a judgment one way or the other. People are going to interpret my recommendations as they see, and I understand that folks come in with preconceived notions. That is what each individual does. I hear your opinion, I respect your opinion, as I always have, but I'm trying to provide to the board and to the public the task which I was assigned to do, and that's what's here.
I totally understand that. Just think maybe we should rethink that line, that's all.
I just have a question. You made a recommendation that whether the bond passes or the bond fails.
I'm sorry, I was not listening. I apologize.
You made the recommendation that whether the bond passes or the bond fails, that you will not house the children in St. Augustine's.
Correct.
On this fact sheet, you don't give the parents any timeline as to when the parents would know where their child was being relocated, whether it be New City or Lakewood. And I would think that if that's your recommendation, you can give an estimated time as to when parents should know.
Sure.
And what is the plan? What would the plan be if this board decides not to rent St. Augustine's? What would be the plan to transition these children into these other two schools?
The plan to transition them if the bond passes.
Or fails? Your recommendation was...
It's the same way, either way.
Correct.
For the next year. The information that you're requesting cannot be given yet because we have not had kindergarten registration. As I tried to say, and I thank you for asking the question because it gives me an opportunity to be redundant without being upfront about it. Nothing in these numbers is carved in stone. We do not know where the final numbers will be. The kindergarten registration will be a strong indication of where those numbers will be. And the reason I say that is because we are not going to recommend splitting up families, and to the best of our ability, we're not going to recommend splitting up neighborhoods. So we do not know what those final numbers will be in terms of class size. Once we do have that information, we will provide that information to the principals and to the schools, but we cannot do that yet. We don't have the answer to that yet. So that will come out in the normal course of events in the spring, as we do every year in terms of setting class size when you register your students for the school. So
kindergarten registration is in February, correct?
By middle of February, we should have answers to that.
Okay, so
and then, despite the accusations that this only takes 45 minutes to put this together, the analysis has to be done about where the families live and where the siblings are and how that affects each of the buildings, and does it affect the number of students in the building that would make it a higher number of classes needed, because you have Board of Education numbers that need to be adhered to. So if we go over those numbers, it would be another classroom, so we'd have to find a way to change students to another building. So my guess would be that'll be a couple of weeks' work. So sometime during the month of March, there should be an understanding of where students will be recommended to be for the following school.
So sometime, you're saying in the middle of March, all right, I'll give you to the end of March. You would have lines drawn, knowing where these children would be going, and then there's a plan in place as to how they will be acclimated into these two buildings? Such as like a smooth transition, like?
Yeah, quite honestly, you as board members know you already have some maps already, but as I said to the board members, those maps are going to change, so please don't share them because they were only as a slice in time at that point in time. Once we have that fully finished, we will know where the students are going, and then there will be a plan formulated with the principals. The principals are already working on it. They know they're going to have students either way next year. They're already working on that. Those plans will be shared with the board members and then eventually shared with the community members and the parents to transition the students in. That'll happen, but that won't happen until we have actual specifics of where they're going to be.
And special ed will be the same?
Special ed will be the same, and that's the way it's always been. Special ed, Mr. Fucci is in charge of that.
Special ed won't be done by March because they don't do IEPs until they.
No. Special ed is not what I'm going to recommend.
No, I know. But, no, I'm saying Wendy, special ed won't know until after all the IEPs have been done, and that's not.
So then we wouldn't be, the parents of the children that are being misplaced from Congers aren't going to know where their children will be going. That's what I'm saying. So
Until all the IEPs are done, and that sometimes, that goes until May and June, that can go.
Okay.
So.
But Joe, I need you to help me out here. You were teaching in the district many years. That's what goes on every year.
It does, it goes on every year that way, yes. That's not a change in anything, but every teacher has to sit and go through all their IEPs, and then they have to look at the numbers and where the placements are, and then they make the recommendations.
And we move these children, we move our special ed children around in the buildings? Like, that's what I'm asking, like, the Congers.
Rarely, but we do. If their needs change, then their placement can change.
And it's important for the board and the public to understand, and I know I said this a couple times already, the superintendent and the board really cannot get involved in it. The IEPs for children are dictated by the CSE and the law. Our job truly is to find funding for those recommendations. Okay?
Anyone else? Okay. Item 1.05. This really should be more of an update on what we've been talking with the community regarding potential curriculum changes as we look at the budget for next year. So just as an update, over the past few months, some of the board members have been meeting with the community in community workshops. And I'd first like to thank those volunteers who came to those meetings. We had 3 meetings, and there will be potentially more meetings as we move forward. Some of us also met with the principals at each level, so at the elementary school level, middle school level, and at the high school level. All very productive meetings. At those meetings, with the workshop meetings as well as with principals, some of the items that were discussed were increasing class size, eliminating low enrollment courses, grouping at the middle school, the importance of AP and how it defines a district, changing the busing lines to see if we can save money that way, and reducing some low enrollment sport activities. We're going to take these suggestions and recommendations into account as a board when we start the budget process in the next few weeks. And once we have something more definitive, then the principals will start communicating that to the students and parents as we move forward. So I just wanted to give everyone that update. Okay. Item 1.06, revisions to the agenda of January 23rd, 2014. There's one agenda revision, that's 7.02, and it's to retain the law firm of Jaspin Schlesinger effective February 1st. Just to give a little background there, Jasper Schlesinger will be joining with, or Lexo Burbett, our current counsel, will be absorbed into Jaspin Schlesinger. And so we're going to have a resolution this evening to approve that. That's item 7.02. And then item 1.07, comments from the floor. And just remember the same ground rules. The board will be in listening mode, and at the end of, towards the end of the meeting, after comments, the board can respond to some of the questions that have been asked. And given the large size of the crowd, we're going to try to limit it to one question per person.
Question,
I'm sorry, one time up at the mic.
I would just like to verify a few things on the summary of Dr. Morton's recommendation. First off, we came up.
You gotta go closer, Vic. You gotta go closer.
It's not part of my 3 minutes, is it? First off, the redistricting, in the vote no column.
You need to get a little closer, please.
In the vote no column, it clearly states that only the Congers kids will be moved. I would like to know if you will be guaranteeing the rest of the district that they will not be redistricting at any point in the future, and if so, will you be guaranteeing that to the community? Also, the class sizes, once again, a vote no states that it brings New City Elementary to the class sizes it was intended to. How many other schools in the district are not at their capacity? And once again, will you be guaranteeing the other families in the district that there will not be another shift of children once you get the results from the $19,000 demographer you just hired? Can you with confidence tell our community that we will not be trying to fill all the schools to the capacity, and you also will be not moving children around to better even out each school's enrollment? And as far as the tax increase in the school building, the Congress School building, I would like to know if the building is used in the future, will it still need to be fixed? If you were to decide to sell the building, would we have to sell it, fix it before we sell it? If we demolish the building, would we have to pay for that? The letter states, if you vote no, there'll be no additional tax fees on this bond. Isn't that a little misleading? Because in the future, this building will need to be addressed at some point. As far as, I want to also clarify the children that are currently going to Congers that are not, that they're homeschooled, where will these kids be placed? Because a lot of kids that go to Congers, it's not their home place. Just in regular classes, not special ed kids. If those kids were considered in the numbers, and where will they go? And additionally, in regards to special ed classes and IEP children, I know you stated that you won't get in Mr. Fucci's way, but will additional teachers need to be hired once these kids are moved around? And how many additional classrooms will be needed to meet these children's needs? And I just feel that as you're planning everything, and as you're saying, well, we don't know about the kindergarten classrooms, and we don't know about the IEP kids, and where they're gonna go, and there's an additional classroom here, an additional classroom there, do we have all the additional classrooms that we need once you place us, our children? All our children deserve stability with a long-term plan that has complete insight on the future of our schools. Every child's needs should be addressed. Every family should have the comfort of knowing what school their child will attend from year to year. I ask you to please be forthcoming with your vision of the future of our schools. I urge you to take your time and consider every possibility the community workshops gather. In my opinion, Dr. Morton's recommendation is a bit misleading and very short term. I ask you, and actually I'd like to know if you're asking for a short-term vision or a long-term task. I ask you to please remember his past recommendations failed because he was looking at our children as numbers, not as children. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Phil Leiter. I saw most of this actually from a distribution that came from.
Get a little closer.
Okay. I saw most of what was here, the presentation, flyer that was sent out and made its way around the neighborhood. And I criticized it because it didn't occur to me that it actually came from the administration. It was described in the flyer as attempting to clarify what would happen in the event of a yes or a no vote. And I thought that this perfectly illustrated exactly why there's no clarity that comes from this bond. If the bond, I'm looking at redistricting. The bond vote is yes, all the elementary schools will be affected, but if it's no, it would only be Congers and New City and Lakewood. And I thought, well, I know that you guys wanted to adjust class sizes to increase the averages across the district. And by your own count, that's 8 classes here, but really, going across the whole population of the elementary schools, you're talking somewhere between 26 and 27. So what exactly does this mean? That the goal for redistricting to achieve these averages is only going to happen if Congers stays open? And if Congers closes, the plan is good enough? I don't understand why there's such a difference. It's stated again here in class sizes that the goal of redistricting is to provide more consistent class sizes across all the elementary schools. Well, how does redistricting 3 schools, and most severely Congers, solve this issue across all the elementary schools. We're getting 2 different plans here, which tells me that there is no plan. But what I do know is that residents are interpreting this to say, if this bond is voted down, there will be no further redistricting. But that's completely contrary to the overall goals of increasing the class sizes. So that needs to be explained. This does not clarify it, it makes the question worse. Finally, on the tax increase number, I see that it's listed as 1/4 of 1% of the tax levy. Just to clarify, that's without state aid. Because I don't see that as I don't see the $10, really that's the $10 figure is 1/4 of a percent?
That's for non-homestead.
Okay, all right. Okay, that's it. That's the clarification I think that needs to be made. Thank you.
Hi, good evening. My name is Matt Kravitz. Bill, you said a lot of things that I was going to say, so I'll be as brief as possible. In my opinion, tonight's an important night. It's important not just for those who have been impacted by the closing of Congers Elementary, but I really believe it's important for all of Clarkstown. I believe it's an important night for all of Clarkstown and all those who make the education of our children a priority. And tonight we've heard information presented by the superintendent, and we've been given information since August regarding the building, the plan, and the details. The problem with a lot of that information is that it at times has been inaccurate, not very well constructed, and presented in a way that can be deemed haphazard at best. When that crack showed up, we were told that we couldn't go to St. Augustine's. There were only 14 rooms. There were more than that. We've been told that only Congers students will be redistricted in the event that the bond fails in a week and a half and that no other students will be moved. That said, we've also been told that if the bond passes, all schools will have a redistricting in order to level the playing field in terms of class size and student-teacher ratio. And that may be all fine and good, but again, similar to what Phil said, if the bond fails, then I'd love to know, how do my friends who have their kids at Woodland in larger class sizes, how does voting no help them? It doesn't. And it's not, I've stood up here numerous times over the past 5 months, and I fully respect the positions that you all hold as elected officials and paid administrators. And I understand the need for checks and balances and fiscal responsibility. But this district is known for the great schools. This district is known for making education the highest priority. And this district, Clarkstown, has always championed all students in all schools. But in my opinion, that's until now. And it's not the hamlets, it's not New City or Mordonia or West Nyack or Congers or anyone that makes up Clarkstown. It's not even the Board of Education or the administration, not even the entire administration. But some who have set out, in my opinion, to keep a school closed and subsequently diminish all that Clarkstown has done over the years to make our district what it is today. Some have decided, in my opinion, that closing the school will occur at all costs, and divisiveness is an answer as to how to run a school district. But it's not at all. Other schools have had issues in the past. We saw that with Laurel Plains, and I'll fully admit, I didn't go to any meetings regarding Laurel Plains when they were embroiled in the situation involving the unknown order. And the reason I didn't go, it wasn't because I didn't care about the kids of my friends who attended the school. It was because I knew that the administration and the Board of Ed at the time had the best interests of those students in mind. And so for me, it's with a sliver of hope tonight that I can say that about this administration and Board of Ed when it comes to all the students and the future of the school district. But to everyone here and at home, I urge everyone to get all the facts. I urge you to read information concerning the value of your home and education law that basically forces the district to sell the school to the highest bidder. And I urge you to write your legislator and state senator and ask them to fight for us regarding state aid. For $10 a year, we can all help to save our community, and we as a community should hold the power for the future of our district.
Good evening, Pete Bradley, Congers parents. I'd like to open up tonight by first saying, check, everyone's good back there? First saying, I don't wish this to happen to any other parent in the Clarkstown Central School District. The stuff that we've been going through since August is horrific, and it's more than just a structural problem that's been going on here. I just want everyone to understand that because I want to make a few comments right now. I want to start off by saying tomorrow night in Congers at the BMA building, which is right in the center of town, right next to the firehouse, we will be having a meeting, and it's going to be basically people who are yes for Congers bond to be passed, and we'll have volunteers, and we'll just do our little talk and determine how we're going to best get out our yes vote to reopen that school. Now, with that being said, I also want to dive into something that we left off with last meeting. Mike, I'm going to direct it towards you, but it's a question from Mr. Linnaeus. Last meeting, Wendy had asked Mr. Linnaeus, can we get a breakdown of the cost to fix, or the cost to maintain that school in a state of vacancy? In other words, electric, gas, lawn maintenance, the whole nine yards. I'm also throwing in, I don't know the cost, what the insurance is to insure that building in the condition that it is in, because I'm sure the insurance will go up on that building in the state of vacancy. Next, I want to go to what Joe Malgeri was saying. Why make this proposed recommendation? Let's call it what it is. It's a recommendation. Dr. Morton has been kind enough, accurate enough, I should say, to call it a recommendation. And that's all it is, folks. That is a political stunt it just happened here last week, saying that these kids, if you vote yes for that bond, you're up. You're going to be punished for voting yes. That's all that is. And that is my opinion, but that's what that is, in case none of you know what it is. The reality is, all Dr. Morton can do is make recommendations. He's already brought it up tonight that he got shot down on the second redistricting proposal for the Congers kids when the IEPs weren't being met. They just said no. They're all going to St. Augustine's on a 6-to-1 vote. So take solace in that. Also, April 2013, Dr. Moore made a recommendation to close 2 elementary schools in executive session. The board told him no across the board. So understand this real clear. These are merely recommendations. These are not ironclad. The volunteer board votes on anything that man says. Lastly, I just want to close out. I may mention this before. Actually, I did not make mention. Nobody has. Chris Conti is not here tonight. He's one of the board members. He's been in the emergency room in Westchester Medical with his son. Everything's okay now, but if everyone, he's been fighting like heck to get this school back on its feet. And just say a prayer for his son, Christopher, who's back home, by the way. And then I want to close out with one more thing. Down here on page 2, Congers School Building on the right-hand corner. If bond is no, building will be secured until the decision about its future is made. Folks, this is Rockland County. There's serious stuff going around here with vacant school buildings in this county, specifically in the town of Clarkstown and New City. Lawsuits are going on, which taxpayers in East Ramapo Schools should be paying for. A person has been arrested. If anyone thinks it's a smart idea to leave a 49,000 square foot building on 6.1 acres of property vacant with no plan in sight, God help us all, vote yes for that bond and pay the $26.
Sean McGee. I think we all know each other by now. All right, we got 32 IEPs. And Wendy, I'm actually going to just answer your question. Okay, here's why he can't give you the answer. Because it's January 23rd. You have not met on the 2014-15 budget. You're waiting to see what the results of the February 4th bond are. And then what's going to happen is when the man presents the budget to you and you present, you're going to have a wild, wild gap. That is not going to be from savings of closing Congers. This is the biggest bait and switch that I've ever seen. That's why you haven't met on the budget. What district hasn't met at least once on their 2014-15 budget? Dr. Morton, you said to me after last board meeting, you actually you tracked me down to said where's and actually there's what Matt Travis actually said, and you said this is only my own. I'm just curious why you're recommending this when you told me and Matt that your original recommendation to the board was to put all the kids into St. Augustine's. I'm confused. So why is this now? That's the one. So we have 32 IEPs, and the other thing, as far as what happens to the building and such, we did speak with the architects who work for Carl Turnout, and they follow what they call ICC. It's not the law, but it's a mandate. And Mr. Linnaeus, I know you know what ICC is. And there's codes here that talk about what you should be doing with the building. Now, there's a separation of church and state between ICC and SED. You're right, SED can't force us to sell a building, but they do strongly talk about things. They also can't force us to redistrict or based on state aid. They can't use that and basically say, you have to lower your enrollment. It's not their decision. It's the whole reason of having a Board of Education. We dictate if we have 21 or 22 kids, not the state. So I'm putting money on it. In fact, I would put a lot of money on it. That after Monday's meeting, if this board passes, we're going to get 55.1% state aid. Because the building was not deemed, it was deemed unsafe, first and foremost. That's what state aid does. It repairs buildings. The enrollment, quote unquote, capacity became a discussion after we were going through this process. So all I'm going to get to is we were misled on the amount of amount of classrooms in St. Augustine's. We're being misled about the state aid. And now we're clearly going to be misled. This enrollment, this proposal, this will no way, this will be overcrowding because you're going to whack out teachers. And we're not talking 6 to 8 like you're talking. You're talking a massive, massive layoff. That's what you're talking about. And that's how you're going to be able to manage the tax cap, which is at 1.5. The state came out with the preliminary budget this Monday. Why our district hasn't been meeting on our 2014-15 budget is because of what I just said.
You guys know me well. I want to congratulate you on being consistent in your misleading of us. I want to congratulate you if you get, both of you, and Mr. Linnaeus, if you get a gold star too. You can't do this to us. This isn't fair to the community. It's not fair to the taxpayers. What you proposed and what you sent out is shameful. This cannot be done to our community. And we have no way of fighting back. We can't send out letters like you can in kids' backpacks without us knowing about it. We can't send out emails to your email list. We can't use your robocaller, but we can use this forum to educate our community on the importance of passing this bond. And we can educate our community on the absolute misrepresentation that is presented to us in this FAQ. I can't believe that you sent this out. I can't believe that you thought it would be a good idea to send it out. And after dealing with us for so long, how you thought nobody would get up here and tear into you for doing this to us is beyond me. It shows there's either arrogance or ignorance or both amongst you for doing this to us. You can't do this. You should be open with us. This is not open. This is not what we discussed, Mike. This isn't fair to us. You're going to pigeonhole us. You've told the rest of the community to vote down this bond. And that's not right. That's not what we've been doing. If divide and conquer is your tactic, you're going to lose because we are a community. We're not a hamlet or a village, as you might think. We're Congers. Congers is part of Clarkstown. And we're going to stick together on this, and everybody's going to come out on February 4th and vote for this bond. They're going to vote yes because they know it's the right thing to do. And to continually put out that we're not going to get state aid when you know we're going to get the state aid is, again, another tactic to mislead and misrepresent. The lying, the disingenuous, it has to stop. What we have to do is work as a community. You should be up here telling us how we're going to change these things, what we need to do to fit all of this. Presenting to us that you're going to just magically make all these kids appear in these schools is another factual misrepresentation. There's 32 kids that you don't even know what you're going to do with them. You don't know where the spare rooms are going to come from. If you tried to put us into 3 schools 6 months ago and it didn't work, how are you going to put us into 2 schools with enrollment going up in our school? It doesn't work. You know it's not going to work. And thank goodness you can't answer me back because we'll just catch you in some more lies. I'm going to end it soon. February 4th, everybody has to come out and vote yes. We have to show this board that we mean business. We have to show this board as a community we're willing to step up and pay the price for STAR education. Our teachers are in this right now. I thank Congress teachers for coming out, and I thank you guys for your support.
Santucci, Congers resident, alumni of this school, 4th generation in this county. I'm here to talk about that word "us" that keeps coming up, and I honestly think this recommendation is destroying us.
Lori, get closer to the mic, please.
I think it's destroying us, and I think the board really needs to look into this and exactly how it's going to tear this community apart. First of all, just looking at these numbers, future first grader number 13 at Congers at Lakewood is probably my son, J.B. Santucci. Future 4th grader number 16 is Tommy Santucci. These are children, not numbers. And I'm here as a mother about that, because when I saw this posted yesterday on Facebook, I mean, this is sickening what this is doing to our community. As a board, I understand you have a responsibility, a fiscal responsibility, but you also have a responsibility to the integrity of this community. And this recommendation here is doing what everybody has just said. Vote no or vote yes, and you'll get this, and this group will get this. I've been called a congruoid, and I grew up in New City. I'm a transplant, and I'm being called a congoloid, a hooligan. I heard comments for the rich New City people and your typical North New City people. And it's an us versus them mentality on the patch, on the Journal News, on Facebook, and it's sickening. It is sickening to see this every day. And once this recommendation went up, it blew up all over Facebook. Comments like crazy. And I know it's only social media, but it's our community showing its rage over these decisions that, or indecisiveness that keeps happening, and this destruction of our community. I've asked you guys time and time again for foresight. I've asked you time and time again, where is this district that I graduated from? It's crumbling. I'm embarrassed to say that my kids go to this district. And I'm proud to say that I went here, and I don't know what's happening to it. I don't know where this is going. My other question to that aspect to it is, if you're going to say that if you vote yes, kids are going to be redistricted with only this group of kids, why do we hire a demographer then? What's a demographer for? Why not get rid of the demographer tonight or February 4th, depending? Because what do we need it for? Because we're not getting full truth here. We're not getting full truth. I'm asking this board to look beyond dollars and look at us at a community, and look at my son and JD and Tommy, both of them. And please see us as people, not just numbers anymore.
Hello, my name is Dennis Rankin. Thank you. My name is Dennis Rankin, and I'm Clarkstown resident, of course, that's why I'm here. There's also 14 schools in Clarkstown. As a whole district that has a lot of issues that need to get taken care of.
Mr. Rankin, would you get closer to the microphone?
It's going to be a $6 million bond, and if it's a 15-year bond, the $1.5 million or so we're going to save each year, it's going to come out to $22.5 million. And one to have the $6 million we've spent on this bond, that's 28, and the money we'll get from selling that lot over there is going to bring us up over $30 million we can use in other schools in our district. That's what we should be looking at, not just trying to keep a few people happy. All the schools here, we have good schools. I think Congers is probably the most run down. So I don't see why there's an issue putting in other schools that are in better condition, and we can spend money on those to bring all those schools up. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Antonia Sambevsky. I've been here before. I unfortunately wasn't here the night when you voted on the bond, but my thought that always comes to mind when I think of this board is short-sighted. Let's start with the fact of, why wouldn't you plan to have it at South? Haven't you been at all the other board meetings? We all come. Why did you have to wait till the last minute to tell people? Short-sighted, okay? Mr. Lanavi says we're going off a fiscal cliff. We need to find $11 million in the budget. But let's spend 6 and 8 months trying to save $1 million and destroy a community. Where's the big plan? Where's the plan to find the money to fix the other 9 schools that all need $3 to $5 million each? Where's the plan? Where are you talking about this stuff? When are we going to find out about it? Because we're just going to have the same conversation year after year. Why don't you just get the $1.5 million, fix the wall, send the kids back to Congers, and spend the next year putting a real plan together and stop destroying a community? You close Congers School, you ruin the town of Congers. You make it less attractive for economic growth. Talk to the town. Get their input. What's going to happen to Congers? Am I going to want to move there when my kids are going to have to go across the water to go to school? No. Why are people going to move to Congers then? You're short-sighted in your planning. I just am amazed at all these people who are so intelligent and can make really nice graphs and really nice, you know. My last thing that I really want to challenge you is that I spoke with Supervisor Bromack today, and he reiterated the offer to review the engineering paperwork and the plans and what needs to get done to Congers at no charge to you. First, he offered it to just help you out, but apparently you have money, so you don't need to have something done at no charge. But now I'd like you to give it to them to look at so we can believe that this whole thing is not a ruse for you guys just to close the school with an easy answer rather than actual do some planning. So I challenge you to do that.
Hi, I'm Jamie Marino, and I want to echo some of what the brilliant woman who just spoke said, and that is to say that I'm really concerned that this bond has become about how does voting yes or voting no affect me and my child, rather than how does it affect the district as a whole. And I think that's something we have to really think about. And I came up to highlight a few points that were made earlier tonight to everyone sitting here, to everyone watching, but more importantly to all of you on the board. And specifically to all of you on the board or anywhere who have children or grandchildren or nieces and nephews or know a friend who has kids who are not in Lakewood, Congers, or New City Elementary, but in one of our other schools. Because there's a lot being said about you tonight, and you may not even realize it. And the first is, I want to point out that voting no for this bond does not guarantee that you, your home, and your children will be unaffected by the outcome of the bond. As Dr. Morton's table kind of leads one to believe. Closing a school means teachers' jobs are cut. Congers teachers, Congers elementary teachers, have been there for decades. They have high seniority. That means teachers at all schools are at risk of losing their jobs when Congers closes. So Johnny's second grade teacher that he's been looking forward to seeing may not be there next year, even if he's a Link teacher. In addition, don't fool yourself into thinking your home won't be redistricted. We didn't hire a demographer at $19,000 to simply ignore those recommendations. Dr. Morton, earlier tonight you said that it will be easy, an easy solution to close Congers and move those children into 2 different schools. First, I can't imagine why we're taking the easy solution. But even if that is an easy solution, as you pointed out, you then followed up and said that at this point, that's all you would recommend the board do for now, for this year. But that down the road, the board might discover it's easy to consolidate 3 other schools. 3 other schools in our district is what I assume you mean. So what that says to me is, you're doing this slowly, little bits at a time, so it only affects a few people, rather than looking at the big picture, really finding a solution, and possibly taking the wrath of everybody that it ultimately affects.
Hi, my name is Ray Ruckle, Congers resident. Just for clarification, if we vote yes, we're going to redistrict all elementary buildings. But if we vote no, we're only going to do 3. So that means the other 7 are unaffected. That doesn't seem to make any sense. And it's worth repeating, as Dr. Morton said, that other people said it. It is going to only affect 3. But my question is, and then it goes back to the point, the savings that's in this flyer, 1.25 million. Now, if we redistrict, if we vote yes, to keep the school open, we're going to end up laying off teachers because we're going to redistrict everyone, all as it's underlined. So the savings, I'd like to know what the savings is going to be if we vote yes and we redistrict anyway. It's misleading to say you're going to save $1 million if we close it. What are the savings if we leave it open? And we're going to end up laying off teachers anyway. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Kristen Kolish, and I have 2 children, ages 3 and 1. And I do happen to be a Congers resident, so I have a vested interest in what will happen with the school that is literally less than a half a mile from my house. I'm in a unique situation. I think about how many other families throughout Clarkstown have young children, not yet school age, that are going to be impacted by this decision, and they have not been informed. The 2-page brochure that was put up on the screen at the beginning of the meeting, I received it from an email that was forwarded to me from another friend who's a parent in the Clarkstown School District.
Mrs. Collins, could you get a little closer?
Sorry. Why was that not sent out in hard copy form? I'll tell you what I did receive, and I refer to Dr. Morton's FAQs here, where he says there's a question about, may school districts provide factual materials to the voters? Yes, districts may provide purely factual and strictly objective materials. Well, I'm looking at a notice that was sent out on New City Elementary PTA letterhead that has your table, but in bold and underlined print reads, the superintendent's recommendation, regardless of the outcome of the vote, will lead Congers children to New City Elementary in 2014, regardless of the outcome. So there's definitely a tilt on the communication that was sent out in students' book bags, and that is purely not factual. And I think also, if I was not part of this process since August, I would think that a superintendent's recommendation, it's likely that that's going to happen. I challenge the board tonight to think about if you would approve this, and if this is not a slam dunk, then you need to communicate that to the community. If it's not a slam dunk, you need to let them know that this is just conjecture right now. And the fact that it's being presented as fact is a problem. And I'd just like to end tonight by saying, back in August when the school was initially closed, I bought my t-shirt that said Save Congers, and I wore it to the beginning meetings. And I purposefully am not wearing it tonight because I wish it said Save Clarkstown, and it does not. I think that that's the t-shirt we need to be raising money for across all of the elementary schools. Thank you.
Hello, I'm the vet Potak, you know me. I'm here. I have 3 children in Congers Elementary. At the last board meeting, Dr. Morton broke down the Congers Elementary principal, teachers, greeter, and it came to $1.25 million. Being on Facebook and New City Patch, I see a lot of people are like, well, let's save it $1.25 million a year. But they're not being informed. It's misleading. Our teachers and everyone are not going to leave. So you're not going to be saving $1.25 million for closing Congers. You're maybe saving $200,000 or $300,000. You're going to get rid of the low-level teachers, the nurse that's the cheapest one in the district, the TAs that haven't been here that long that make $10 an hour. You're not getting rid of the Congers people. So don't mislead the community and tell them they're going to save 1.25 reduction for closing Congers when they are not. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Ron Schnitter, longtime Congers resident. See a lot of my fellow neighbors from past and present here. How are you guys?
Hey, Ron.
Hi, Penny. I recounted this last time I was here. Just a quick piece about Congers history, back in 1992, I believe, I mentioned the road widening issue. The road widening issue that at the time had all council members, I think it was what, 5 to 1 in favor of road widening into Congers. By the time we finished as a community, it was unanimous against the road widening. Why? Because of the community. Also, laden with some facts which I thought were interesting at the time, and that is when we talked about the intensity or severity of accidents going across the causeway, it almost doubled, okay, for the accidents coming from the causeway. So there's a whole argument for widening the road. So ultimately it didn't fly. But the one thing I remember was the concern about the safety in that direction. It's never really left. The other thing is, Congers, unlike so many of these schools, yes, it is one of the oldest. And why? Because it was the original Clarkstown High School. Why? Because it's, it's in the middle of a community, a vibrant community. And I hope everybody's going to join us in the Memorial Day Parade, where most politicians usually march. Okay, why? Because of the need to be part of bringing Congers in as well as the rest of Clarkstown in to the picture. It's a centerpiece. Congers has been a centerpiece in many, many ways. All right. All three of my children went through Congers. The relationship of the school to the community geographically is like the heart. You remove the heart, it feeds the blood vessels. Blood vessels are the homes, are the shops, are the commerce, the recreational areas, all of it, all tied into one. It's unique. It's a little different, all right? It's geographically sequestered from most of Clarkstown, all right? And around that, over the years, I've seen this community grow and tighten, okay, together as a community. We have generations. I've seen new homes being built. I've seen people interested. I had one person back then say to me during the road winding issue, "This is why I moved here. This is why people continue to live there." If you take that school out, and I don't have the kind of command of the facts like so many of my neighbors do or you do, but I do know what it feels like emotionally. And I will tell you that it will suck the life out of that hamlet. Okay, it will offer a very poor option, okay, to all the young parents who have kids and destroy a lot of the memories of those who did. Thank you.
This will be the last question.
How you doing? My name is Kevin Eastings. I'm a Clarkstown resident. I'm a teacher. I've been a teacher for 20 years. And I have some advice for the board members that come from other areas and other places outside of education, although I do appreciate everything that you do here. 20 years ago, we used to have a very simple job of making any kind of decisions like this. And it all came down to one question, and most people that have been around for that long in education know this. We used to say, is it good for kids? It was very easy. We used to sit around and talk this, that, what way should we go? And it would come back, is it good for kids? I think we're missing it here. I told you this about 2 months ago. Fiscal responsibilities is one thing, and someone said, and respectfully to that person, said you do have fiscal responsibilities, but your real responsibility, or another responsibility, is to people in this room. It's really not true. It's to the kids. And I'll give you an example of what I'm trying to say. I'm very nervous about. A kid, Dr. Morton, that is a 3rd grader, that was told in August that he can't go to his school. He doesn't have a school. And I say that not to sensationalize it. He really was told that and went to Laurel Plains, for instance. He then got very happy to go back to St. Augustine's for a very, very tiny little piece of our budget, or for what amounted to cents, pennies, to this community in Clarkstown as a whole. The kid's now being told, with your recommendation, that he's going to go to another school next year. He's now in 4th or 5th grade, whatever it is. The following year, he's going to go to another school, and then he's going to go to Festa. It goes against what we're supposed to be doing in education for a third grade kid, and it's to create a stable, comfortable environment. So the recommendation, I feel, is wrong for that reason, and I think that everybody respectfully should really make your job easier and say, listen, what is the best thing for kids? Another recommendation, with all due respect, for the savings you used at the last meeting, you know, savings of 8 teachers, and you caught yourself a few times. I understand they probably feel hard to tell someone they lose their job. However, class size also points to a better education. So we gotta watch the dollars and cents that we're talking about. When we're talking about Clarkstown's education, I've been here for 44 years, and we have the best school district around. We always have. So it shouldn't be the savings that should be at the forefront. It really should be keeping class size low goes to the direction of a good, solid education. A kid's stability in school and feeling comfortable to go to a school as a 4th grader, that's what makes a good education. Donald Trump, when he's building his buildings for the people outside of education, doesn't say, oh, no, don't put the gold trim up. Don't put the gold trim up. He's not worried about the pennies sometimes. He's worried about that great big structure of the building, which is really Clarkstown. You know, we have a great education. We can't always come down to dollars and cents. So respectfully, you know, I hope you do the right thing by the kids in all circumstances.
Hi, my name is Sarah Fahey. I'm not a very good public speaker, but I feel that I owe it to my children to come up here. Basically, what everybody else said, I really feel that you should change this and the way you wrote it, because it is telling people to vote no. And that's just plain and simple. And I just want to know, when was the last time you went into St. Augustine's and saw our kids and looked at them, saw how wonderful the teachers are, saw the kids in the classroom playing with their friends. They're going to get separated. I moved here 2 years ago to Congers. I love it. I'm very proud of moving here. My daughter's about to start kindergarten. They wanted me to gather my son. It takes him a hard time. He has an IEP. It's hard for him to make friends. I don't know how to tell him that this is going to be his reality. He's been in 3 schools so far since he started. Next year he'll be in 4. Who knows after that? Thank you.
Item 2.01, approval of minutes of the regular meeting from January 9th.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Item 3.01, approval of treasurer's report dated September 13, October 13, and November 13. Can I have a motion?
Make a motion.
Second?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Okay, item 4.01, comments from Board of Education reps Jennifer Hopkins and Ms. Scott Robin.
Hi again, everyone. My name is Ms. Cat. I'm the student representative from Clarkstown North. First off, I'd like to wish everyone a happy, almost end of the semester. Despite not having any superstorm or any power outages during the winter season this year, I do have to say it was definitely the coldest winter we've had in a while. As per usual, with the end of the semester comes the ever so dreaded parent-teacher conferences, this year on Monday, February 3rd. Our National Honor Society members will be volunteering in shifts to help parents navigate through the school, so parents rest assured if you are concerned about getting lost, there will be plenty of students available to help. Furthermore, I'd like to announce that next Thursday, January 30th, our World Language Honor Society will be hosting its first ever Culture Festival. The event will be held right after school and will include food, games, and prizes run by all the language clubs at our school. Admission is only $3, and all proceeds will be donated to providing relief for the Philippines. Lastly, in the spirit of cultural exchange, I'd like to discuss the Japanese program. 2 years ago, 23 students from Clarkstown North and Clarkstown South participated in the Kizuna Japanese Exchange Program, a project run by the Japanese government with the objective of promoting other countries' understanding with regards to Japan's revival efforts in response to the Great East Japan earthquake. The project invites high school students from 41 different countries and regions in Asia and North America, allowing them to participate in exchange programs, visit disaster-affected areas, and engage in volunteer activities. The program also involves sending high school students from Japan to other various countries and regions. The batch of students that I have been a part of was made up of approximately 324 students from places all over the U.S., such as Seattle and Oregon. Our group visited Kitashiobara Village and Mount Urubandai in the Fukushima Prefecture. Fortunately, the village was less affected by the Great East Japan earthquake in March 2011, but a subsequent nuclear accident in that area resulted in the release of radiation. We understood the safety of the natural environment in Mount Urubandai through trekking and agricultural produce through observation of the direct sales stores of vegetables and the Kitashiobara Radiation Inspection Office. The second part of the program took place during spring break of 2013 when the Japanese students came to stay with us for a couple of days. We showed the students all around New York City and took a ferry around the Statue of Liberty. I'm proud to say that I still maintain contact with all my Japanese friends that I made through this program, despite our language barriers, and thus I'd like to present Dr. Morton and the board with the final report of the program with the hope that we can continue to participate in programs like this in the future. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Again, my name is Jen Hopkins, and I'm the student rep for Clarkstown. As the third quarter approaches us, a lot of important things are happening. Students will be selecting their courses for next year in the next couple of weeks, and the course selection guide will be online Monday. While very exciting, this course selection process can be very stressful, so I wish all the students good luck. In addition to this, senior transcripts will be going out in the next few weeks as well, helping prepare the now juniors for the college application process. Regents exams will be given to some classes next week. Again, I wish those test-taking students a lot of luck. Parent-teacher conferences are also coming up February 3rd during the day and February 5th during the evening. Lastly, to end on a high note, the GO store is having a can drive, so you can drop off any non-perishable food items before next Friday, January 31st, right here at South. Thanks for your time and have a good night.
Comments from board members?
I have no board report, but I would like to say this. I hope the Clarkstown community gets together for the good of the Congers students and all the children of the Clarkstown Central School District.
Anyone else?
No, no report.
No report.
Okay. Unless there are objections, I'm going to take item 5.01 all the way down to 5.18.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Item 6.01, personnel civil service list dated January 3rd, 2014. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
7.01, recommendation of the Committee on Preschool Education.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Okay, and then this is the addition, item 7.02. Can I have a motion for the board to hereby retain the law firm of Jasper Schlesinger effective February 1st, 2014, in accordance with the terms of a retainer agreement dated January 21st, 2014, the salient deals of which are set forth below.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Item 8.01 down to 8.05, unless there are objections. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Item 8.06, approval of Wendy Brandenburg as impartial hearing officer in the case of A. Can I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Just want to add, for item 7.02, where we retained Jasmine Schlesinger, on our website we'll put the official resolution on our website so you can see it and you can see the process that took place to pick Jasmine Schlesinger. Okay, 9.1, any additional comments from the floor? If you already asked a question, this is for individuals who haven't asked a question. Or please make sure to send your questions. Thank you.
Hi, I'm John Rips. I'm a Woodland dad, and first of all, I've been coming to these meetings for the last few months, and I've really learned a lot from hearing about everybody in Congers. I will tell you that the word really is not out in the community as much as you might think it is. Without coming here, I really wouldn't know anything. And I'm not on Facebook that often, and I have not received anything in the mail, so I appreciate learning from all of you, even though my issue is not as significant in the realm of life. I'm sure a lot of you know me as the school bus stop guy. I have a lot of people coming up to me today and asking me, hey, did you get the bus stop issue fixed yet? Okay? I haven't. I was here in December. I asked to be put on the agenda in January. I came in January. I was not on the agenda. 2 weeks ago, I asked to be put on today. Very respectfully. It's not on today. I don't know what I need to do. I have no answers from the district other than a blanket no. Dr. Morton, with all due respect, I've emailed you videos. I've emailed you a lot of material, not one response from you. I am disgusted at the way that your office has handled the situation and the lack of action for the safety of my kids, which is a very serious issue. And Mr. Lene, you would know better either early on. You didn't answer any of my emails. And as disgusted as I am with this board, I'm even more disappointed, or I'm sorry, in the administration. I'm really disappointed with the board as well, especially because so many of you came up to me and said, you know what, John, you're right. We should change it. But it hasn't happened yet. So if the board thinks that I'm right, what the heck am I still doing here with this stupid issue? I want this on the agenda, and I want it done on the next school board meeting. Thank you.
I have two things I'd like to bring up tonight. One is based on the packet that we received today with Dr. Morton's recommendation. I want to ask for clarification on one of the board policies, specifically 9,440, Section 6. It says, it is the policy of the Board of Education that the district's assets, facilities, and funds not be used whether directly or indirectly in a politically partisan way in support of or in opposition to any candidate running for elected office, or in support of or in opposition to the proposition, referendum, or issue being voted upon by the electorate. So it seems to me that the packet we received is leaning more towards the no vote, but so if you give me some clarification on that tonight. And also, I want to say to community members, I am not here to tell you how you should vote. I'm here to remind everyone that can and will vote on February 4th to make your decision based on current, relevant, factual, and accurate information. Do not always go by what your friend or some random person says or even types and posts onto a social media site. If I were to ask you all right now what the color of the ceiling is, most of you wouldn't answer without looking up first. So don't without looking up your information. Also, please remember what you are voting for and leave all emotions and personal agendas at the door. If you wish, they can be picked up on your way out. I want to quote Mrs. Honeveld before I go. We are the Clarkstown Central School District, the greatest school district in the lower Hudson Valley and beyond. We are not just New City Elementary, Link Elementary, or any one of our great schools individually. We are one school district, a district whose goal is to provide each child with the education they deserve, an education that we often like to call a Clarkstown education. Please keep that in mind when you vote on February 4th.
Hi, George Mendez, Clarkstown resident. I'm here on a separate matter besides the bond, which is very important, and I'm sure you have your hands full. It's in regards to the the new state law regarding the property tax exemption for school property taxes for military veterans. This is my first time up here, first time dealing with the board. I'm not sure what the process is. I made a few phone calls to the town and to the school district. I was told that a resolution has to be adopted and passed by the school board in order, basically it's optional, tax exemption for military veterans, and also Gold Star parents, which have lost a member of the military. tax exemptions for them, military veterans, and I was hoping, I was told by the district clerk, the district clerk, that they sent the board some information regarding how many people would benefit from this exemption. Has anyone received that information? If so, have they had the chance to review it? And if anyone would like to comment as to their initial inclinations as to whether or not it would be put on the agenda. And also, I just would also put in a sense of urgency, because most of these exemptions, there's a deadline for March 1st. We're already almost at the end of January. It takes a public hearing from what I'm hearing, and a resolution adoption from the school board, which takes either a meeting or two. That puts us into February, and like I said, the deadline's March 1st for veterans to file with the town and the school. Thank you for your time.
Pete Bradley again. I want to start off, Mike, are we going to get an answer about the cost to maintain that building and the vacant status? Do we have it right now? Yes. Okay.
When you're done.
Okay, when I'm done. All right, then I want to segue into what a gentleman, I believe his name is Frank, from Clarkstown, showing all the benefits of closing the building. And not personal, Frank, there's going to be plenty of people voting no as well, so this is not personal. I just wanted to do a correction here. He did forget to leave out the cost, well, one or two things. We already covered this, actually I covered this in one of my blogs. The cost to demolish that building is going to be astronomical. The building is riddled with asbestos. So for the small pockets of people that think that Clarkstown's going to retain ownership, level that building, and turn it into ball fields or basketball courts or tennis courts, think about the expense we're going to incur by doing that. When you're thinking you're saving $26 per, what is it, $26 a year, that's right. That's another correction I wanted to make. It wasn't made clear before. That's $26 per year. That is $2.17 a month. If that state aid comes through, that's $10 per year, 83 cents per month. Remember, think about this long and hard, because Frank also threw in at the end the savings in selling the lot. And I'm going to revert back to this again. There are specific rules that the New York State Education has to follow when they're selling that building. If Mr. Linné wants, he can educate the rest of us on what those rules are, because he educated me about a month and a half ago. Very stringent rules, and one of the speakers before made it clear, it goes to the highest bidder, okay? So in essence, make sure you understand, February 4th is your vote. Your last vote, by the way, because whoever decides when that building is going to be sold, all it takes is 4 board members, not necessarily these board members. It could be 2 years from now when 3 or 4 of them are gone. It could be board members not even living here. So just make sure everyone understands that February 4th is your final vote on determining that future. And as of right now, there's no indication that there's any plan in place on what to do with that building, as written right here. We've heard this the whole time. We don't know what we're going to do. We're going to secure it. That's the plan right now. We're going to secure the building. And we'll find out what the cost will be to secure it. And also, Mike Hirsch is not the only one talking about wanting to sell it. You're hearing other people. There are small pockets. Now, when the numbers come out on the cost to maintain this building, I'm pretty sure we're going to hear it's over $100,000, but I'll wait for Mr. Linné to throw that number out, because we have to pay for a custodian as well. You're going to see the tide start to bubble up and get angrier and angrier that that building sitting in the middle of town, serving no useful purpose to the town of Clarkstown, is costing taxpayers X number of dollars. Hopefully we'll hear what that X number of dollars is tonight. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Sean McGee. I want to kind of add on to Pete's discussion with kind of the options. And I'm actually going to go right to fact with SED, and I'll name the name. His name is Tony Frandino. He's the architect for SED. Okay, so this is instead of propaganda going back and forth. SED, State Education of New York, 9/18, September 18th, September 17th. Tony read the report. Here's what happens. we have to follow, or what they, it's not a have to, I shouldn't say have to, it's ICC, it's the National Council Code, it's a mandate. Wendy, I'll give you all the information right after the meeting. So I see you going ready to pen happy there. And what ultimately says is you do have to maintain the building. And they don't set the law, they're not an authority on SED, nor is the SED authority on us in the respect of forcing us to do certain things, including bringing our enrollment down to 20 or 19 or up to 24 or 28. They can't do that. But to jump into what the destruction costs for the facility, they did quote $40 to $50 per square foot, and that's without asbestos abatement. So destroying the building is not really an option if you think about it for the taxpayer, because by the time you put asbestos abatement into that figure, you're talking astronomical figures. 1927, I spent 2.5 years in active duty in the United States Navy. I can tell you about red lead till I'm blue in the face. There's more red lead in that building, forget about asbestos. You start moving anything in that building, you're gonna have more problems from litigation around that building than you can shake a stick at. You think you got problems here now? Financial problems, you don't even know what would smack us in the face. So at 48,000 square feet, at 40 to 50 just to remove the building, that becomes about $2 to $2.5 million. Not one penny is covered by the state aid. That's according to SED. And if someone could correct me if I'm wrong on that, just please say so now. Now, so let's tack another. So there's no really option there. He basically said you have to fix the building some way or somehow, or you have to sell the building. Now it comes into selling the building. New York State education law, and I talked about this the last time in our last meeting. We are a centralized school district for more than 7 years. That means the Board of Education has the right to put up the property for sale without a vote from the district, without a say from the district voters, unless we do one thing. We get 10% of all qualified or registered voters to sign a petition within 30 days to stop them. I'm not saying you in particular. Your terms are only 3 years. So this isn't a perpetuity deal for everyone. You know, you're up for election, what, next May, Mike? Wendy, next May? Bob? Oh, welcome back, Bob. It's been a few meetings, I've seen it. But so my point is, there's a constant rotation of board members. We don't know if these people will represent us next year or the year after. And to put that to peace terms, they have the say of what the building, and once they do that, it has to be sold. You have a fiduciary responsibility to sell to the highest bidder. That's it. That's all I want to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Rich Grafson, Congers resident. I moved to Congers because I wanted to live in a small town, and I got that. I have a great amount of pride in my town, and I love living there. I moved from a nice house in New City. I grew up in New City in a different house, but I found in Congers the perfect place to live. When my son was in kindergarten, we rode our bikes on every street in the Congers elementary territory. He loved his school from the first day. I remember his pride as he showed us around that wonderful, quirky, beautiful building during his Halloween dance in kindergarten. He loves that school. He loves his friends from all over town. Please do not separate us.
Comments from the board?
I have a couple of things. First of all, I have a question. Has anybody looked into Davies Farm and how many houses are going to be built there? Does anybody know?
Davies Farm goes to Lakewood.
But if we put our kids into Lakewood, that's what my question is. Does anybody know how many houses are going to be built? Have we asked about that from them? And when they'll be built?
Around 30.
Around 30 homes, okay. So we're going to need space for those people. Second of all, I got a call last week from CYO, and they told me that they were playing a basketball game in the E-Wing gym at Festa. Now, if you know anything about the E-Wing gym, it's in the basement. There are classrooms up above it. And it was the Wednesday that we had the heavy rain, and they had to call off the games because it was water leaking into the gym. Now, that's on the bottom floor, folks. So now I want to go back to what Antonia said before about bigger bond. If you remember correctly, my first proposal was to fix every one of our roofs. And I still believe we need to fix every one of our roofs. Had the board voted to do that, we would be fixing all our roofs, we would be fixing Congers, and we would be putting in a heater at North High School so the annex doesn't freeze. So, Antonia, yes, we were short-sighted. I'm sorry. Lori, I've known you a long time. We worked together at the middle school, and I like what you had to say about the integrity of this community, because I've been in this community since 1972. I've worked with or for every superintendent that's ever been associated with Clarkstown, from Felix Vesta right through to Tom Morton. And, you know, if there's such a thing as bleeding Clarkstown, then I guess Diane and I can say we do that. And the name calling is despicable. You know, you can say what you want about me, and I don't expect everybody to like my views and like what I have to say, and that's fine. But this week, my wife and my son were dragged into it, and that was despicable. So, people want to take shots at me? Go ahead. I expect it. I don't sit here thinking you're going to love everything I have to say. I don't sit here thinking you're going to respect everything I have to say. You want to say something on social media about me? Go right ahead. I have plenty thick skin about that. But when my wife and my son are dragged into it and things are said about them, I draw the line. Just a few other really quick things. Jamie, I agree with you. The demographer is useless at this point because this board's already made pretty much their decision. So why would we want to spend $19,000 to find out? And the seniority piece, folks, don't believe that your kids' teachers are going to be with them next year. You know, the $1.25 million is based on the lowest paid teachers. It's not based on the highest paid teachers. So the money sounds good, but there are 12 teachers in Congers that have to be reassigned to this district. And it's, by my count, we only have like 4 or 5 going to Lakewood and New City. So the other 7 are going to other schools. So tell your friends and neighbors that if they have a teacher they really like, chances are they may not be there next year. And the last thing I'm going to say is I spent today, and as you know, if you know anything about me, you know I do my homework. When the St. Augustine's thing came up, I went and I looked at that school. So today I went to every elementary school and I talked to every principal in the district. And we don't have 70 empty classrooms, we have 8 empty classrooms in our district. 4 of them are at Lakewood. That means there are 4 more in Clarkstown. So we're going to move people around. Yeah, I know, they're going to tell you that. That's how the principals use them and all that stuff. And that's great, because that's what makes Clarkstown great. We have 3 and 4 people sharing a room. Well, if we take that classroom away, that's 3 or 4 people we have to find other space for. So it's not as simple and black and white as just moving those kids. And I still believe that the wrong thing to do would be to move those kids to Lakewood and New City next year and then move them back to Congers.
First of all, I want to say, I know Joe Malgeri for over 40 years. He is a man of integrity.
We're not that old.
You are, I am. That was a long time, Joe. But anyhow, he is a man of integrity, and he did his homework today, and I wish I could have joined him to see, because there's nothing like going in person to see what's actually out there. I want you to know that I'm not in favor of moving children into different schools. I like to keep the Congers children all together, and I think that Congers schools are very important to the community. We are the Clarkstown Central School District, the best there ever is in the lower Hudson Valley, and if we are starting to destroy it if we do things like this. So please get your friends to vote and keep Clarkstown the excellent school district it is.
Mr. Linnaeus, I have some questions for you. I asked you last time at our meeting what it's going to cost to keep that building operating while it was vacant. I also asked in regards to the demographer, where were we? I know you had said we're in the process. And now I need to ask you another question because numbers keep popping up. While the engineers were doing this study, did anybody ever ask the engineers what it would actually cost to demolish this building with the asbestos that's in there? Have we ever gotten a number?
We did not. It was never contemplated as an option.
Can you get a number?
Sure.
Thank you. And in regards to the expenses to this building? Leaving it vacant.
Right, so what we provided for the board, and Wendy, you have this in front of you for those who haven't seen it, and we'll be happy to post this on the Congers site. For 12-13, we spent about $47,000 in utilities at Congers. On average, over the last 5 years, we've spent about $56,000. July, we're on a fiscal year, July to June. July through December, we've spent about $18,000 on oil, gas, electricity, and water. We're expecting for the full year to spend about $35,000, so less than what we had spent the previous year, which was $47,000. So in working with CS Arch, our engineering firm, we are of the belief that the utilities could be cut generally in half if the building were vacant. There's some discussion with them about whether or not you turn off the heat completely by draining the pipes, et cetera, so nothing freezes. My preference would be to not do that so that we could have custodian staff go back and forth every couple days and check on things. So with that kind of approach, the utilities would be about half of what we spent last year, which was about $46,000. So the utilities long term would be roughly $28,000 during vacancy.
Another question.
Could I answer an insurance question though? Let me say it off while I'm talking. There's been, I guess some people have asked, and Mr. Bradley asked tonight, that there's an expectation that the insurance of the building would go up because the building is vacant. We contacted NYSER, our insurance company, which stands for New York State Insurance Reciprocal, the second we knew we had a problem there in August. They've been out to see the site. We've been on the phone with them many times. Now, NYSER is a member-owned insurance company. That means the people who own the insurance company are the members, of which we're one of the founding members. So it's a bunch of school systems throughout the state. And they're very oriented and focused on supporting school systems. They know the school system business, and as you might imagine, many schools have vacant buildings. And so when we added St. Augustine's to our insurance, the premium didn't go up because they look at the portfolio in total, which is over 1 million square feet, and they evaluate the risk and the potential underwriting liability for them. So under normal conditions, if this were a commercial property and we were going to go to some insurance company, Allstate or someone, and ask them to insure a vacant building, you're right to think that the rates would be exorbitant, or they may choose to not even cover you because insurance companies don't like to cover vacant buildings. However, NYSER is in the business of supporting schools, and they understand a vacant school is different than a vacant factory. They understand we have a very good track record of managing risk, and so we did not get an increase to premiums associated with having the building vacant, nor do we expect to get an increase associated with having the building vacant. So I hope that addresses the questions regarding insurance, Ms. Adolph. Ms. Adolph, your next question?
Yeah, I have one more question. We rented St. Augustine's this year, and it was all prorated and all of that. What would be the cost to rent St. Augustine's next year for the full year, which would be July 1 to June 30th? And I hate to do this to you, but do you know how much it would, what the expense there is? Because I know we're paying a percentage of the utilities. Just and 2 parts.
Yeah.
I know Mr. Thurneau is coming down on Monday. You will be asking if he deems that we can get state aid, would we be able to obtain state aid then for the rental of St. Augustine's again on an ongoing basis?
Right. I'd be happy to supply the St. Augustine's numbers over the next couple of days. Given the, the heightened sensitivity to every word that's used and every number that's quoted, I just don't want to give you anything off the top of my head.
That's fine,
Yeah.
not a problem, but if you can get those numbers
Sure.
to me,
I'm
or
happy to
if you
do
can
it.
post them on the website.
What we don't, yeah, well, certainly, Joe, everyone. What I don't have pre-negotiated, though, what the next year rate will be from St. Augustine. So that will take, some phone calls and follow-up with them for them to give us a proposal for next year, because I don't know if they're contemplating, adjusting their price.
Can you do that, please?
Yeah.
So it's St. Augustine's for 1 year, possibly 2?
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I wanted to discuss, there was some comments about the budget, that nobody's looking at it. I just want everybody to know that we have several committees that are meeting, community members, teachers, administrators, to help us with the budget. Ultimately, it is our decision, the board's, but we are reaching out. For anybody to think that we're sitting and not doing anything is absolutely absurd. Thank you.
Okay. I'm sure I'm not going to be able to answer all the questions, but I'll try to get through a lot of the questions that were asked, and Dr. Morton may have to respond to some of these as well. But I first want to start out that the reason why we asked the superintendent for the recommendation was after we had that initial vote, in this auditorium, I believe it was this auditorium. The community was very upset because we didn't have a redistricting plan to show them at that point. And part of the reason we waited and didn't ask for a recommendation was we didn't want to think that everything was, to show people that everything was predetermined. We wanted everything to play its course, and if the bond was voted down, then we'd have a redistricting plan. But that was unacceptable to the community. And so then we asked Dr. Morton to make a recommendation, to the board of what would happen if the bond fails or if the bond passes. And so that's what he did. In terms of if the bond passes and long-term planning, I think part of the reason, he's saying that the district has to think long and hard, or the board has to think long and hard about redistricting, it's because through our community workshop process and trying to reduce expenses in the budget, increasing class size is a major discussion point. And if you look throughout the district, there's some inconsistency in class size, and you see that readily in Congers. And so his recommendation reflects that and balancing that out. What I would say is we would not make a decision until we have some statistics from a demographer and look at this on a long-term basis. So that's that. In terms of Congers, if the bond fails, we're going to stabilize the wall. And I believe the cost is about $60,000. Is that correct? Yes. In terms of demolishing, we didn't ask for the cost, and we will now, but the original reason for not asking for the cost is because there's no interest by this board to demolish this building, and for a number of reasons. And part of it is, things could change over time. We may need to reopen this building. And Mr. Malgeri pointed that out with some buildings that we originally closed in years past. We had to reopen some of those buildings or expand some.
We had to expand other buildings.
I'm sorry, we had to expand other buildings. So I think, over the medium term to potentially long term, I think it's prudent to keep Congers open in case things change, so we don't have to add on to other buildings. And in terms of selling, again, there's no interest by this board to sell this building. There's no pressure to sell this building, and it was something that we haven't considered.
Yeah, Mr. Aguilera is asking me to respond to the comment that we did not consider other students who attend Congers. The recommendation considers all students who are in the school as of January 15th. We have talked specifically about youngsters who have IEPs. That will be dealt with by Mr. Fucci, but our recommendation considers all students who are in attendance as of January 15th. We didn't make a distinction between any students at all from where they were. We took the enrollment as of.
So if I could use you, Vicki, as an example. So your kids should be in Strawtown, but they're in Congress, so your family can stay together, correct?
Right, but my son is in a.
Right. So I guess the question is are your Strawtown kids in that number? The answer is yes.
Yes.
And then the problem is that they'll actually be taken out then, depending on where my other son's program goes.
So that could happen.
Mr. Lene, was your flyer been posted on the web yet?
Yeah, the flyer's been on the web for some time.
And having a blast email to the community?
It went out in School Messenger.
It went out in School Messenger,
Mhm.
okay.
Yes, I've been asked to comment on a statement that in executive session, there was a recommendation to close 2 schools. First of all, executive session discussions do not become public until there's no longer a need for the privacy of executive session. So that's an interesting comment in and of itself. Secondly, there was a discussion with the board leadership with Mr. Aguilera and Mr. Conti over the summer, which talked about the possibility of closing down 2 elementary schools. That conversation did take place. I was directed by Mr. Conti and Mr. Aguilera that they were not considering that possibility, so I should not consider looking at that any further at that point in time, and that happened over the summer. And on a lighter note, Sean, you said I sought you out, and I guess I probably did because I wanted to tell you it was the summer, not April. You made me sound like a stalker, though. I wasn't stalking here. So I did want to answer your question, but. That would have been a little more flat. Okay, there is a question asked that how could we possibly fit students in 2 schools when we couldn't fit them in 3 schools? The reason for that was the Board of Education made a determination as soon as we realized we couldn't use the Congers school that all of the teachers and the students should stay together as a complete classroom. When you kept those students together in classrooms, that took a significant larger number of rooms. As a matter of fact, it took 45 classrooms. We just barely had 45 classrooms to use in those 3 schools that we used up. And as everybody is well aware, some of the programs that had to be taken out, reading and special ed and so forth, were not being served as they should have been. I have admitted repeatedly that was a mistake on our part. Probably a couple of mistakes. Maybe we shouldn't have made the commitment to keep the youngsters together. Maybe we should have integrated them right away. But whatever the case is, we made a decision to keep everybody together. When you move students together, you take up a lot more classrooms. With the recommendation that you have here, students will be integrated in the existing classrooms. I've already talked repeatedly today about how that will be, and they do fit. someone took offense to the word easily, but they do fit well into the two schools right now.
And a question about teachers at all schools will be affected. I mean, this may be the case, but there's a decent chance it may not be the case. And part of that could be that there may be a retirement incentive that might be offered, and some teachers may take that. And so some of those younger teachers who would normally have been let go because of seniority reasons would keep their job. And then also child care leave. I mean, there are many teachers who are on child care leave, and at times we have hired teachers teachers for that temporary basis, and so those teachers would not be hired on a temporary basis. And so it's really difficult to say that seven teachers would be eliminated. And there's a whole bunch of different factors that are taken into account. I mean, it could happen, but there's a decent chance it wouldn't.
I was asked to respond about my recommendation last summer to not put the kids into St. Augustine's. What I want to say to that is this is a perfect example of what some folks are saying, that the superintendent can make a recommendation and the Board of Education can take a different course. The board members sitting before you tonight were told by me, after we tried to fit those youngsters in 3 schools the way we talked about before, that it does not make sense to try and do this any longer. The community's against us, the principals are against us, and I made a recommendation to these board members that the Congers school en masse should be housed in the St. Augustine school. 4 of the board members told me that I was not allowed to make that recommendation, that they would not support it, that I need to come up with a different recommendation. And we spent about a week's time coming up with a different recommendation, walking through every single child's IEP and every other aspect of the program, and we made a different recommendation in this room. I shared that recommendation with the Board of Education members in the executive session before we came out here. Asked the board president, is the majority of the board still in favor of this change? Knowing full well that my recommendation was to go to St. Augustine's. I was assured by the board president that the majority of the board was in support. And then you saw when we came out this room, they voted 6-1 against that recommendation, and in fact for my original recommendation. So the superintendent's recommendations are not always listened to, but you need to know that there are thoughtful recommendations put forth that sometimes are listened to and sometimes are not.
So is this your real recommendation now, or is this the recommendation that they want you to push forth?
Right. And then the recommendation to go forward, to not put them at St. Augustine's for the future, is in large part, financial. It was stated tonight that we gave false figures. I will repeat the figures that I supplied to the public and the board on January 9th. There was a reduction of teachers of 8 teaching positions. The lowest pay on the teacher's salary guide is $50,000. Our benefits package is about $25,000. So we use the figure of $75,000 per teacher. 8 times $75,000 is $600,000. We said we would reduce 2 custodians. The cost of a salary and benefits for custodians is $50,000. So that's $100,000. The cost of a principal with benefits is $170,000. Cost of a nurse with benefits is $55,000. Cost of clericals, 1.5 clericals is about $82,500. Cost of 2.5 art, music, phys ed teachers is $187,500. Cost of greeters is about $40,000. Cost of TAs is considered in there, but not accounted for. Anyone can do the arithmetic and see that, in fact, that is not misleading anybody in the public. That number comes up to be better than $1.25 million. And the budget reduction is why the recommendation is being made, not to continue in St. Augustine's. That does not even include whatever the cost may be for the rental, which is undecided at this point. Yes. Mr. Rips asked for some information. I believe I stated very clearly at the last board meeting that I did not support his request. I can understand how he would not be happy with me saying no, but I don't think that's unprofessional anyway. That was just my opinion. The answer is no. The appeal process is to go before the whole board, and I'm assuming that's what that comment was tonight. I'm not sure. But in my opinion, and I will tell the board this right now, and you can make a decision however you want, I believe that Mr. LeNave's recommendation to keep the bus stop at the corner, unless there's snow on the ground, or he'll pick the youngsters up in a driveway, is a very good compromise. I know that was shared with Mr. Rips. I believe it should be the decision. And I would recommend that to the board, and the board may want to decide that on their own. You know, the answer of saying no to someone is far different from being disrespectful.
And just one last response with regard to property tax relief for military veterans and the family of military veterans. We received information this evening. We're going over that information. We'll have discussions during the month of February regarding some sort of action plan, and we'll come back and we'll keep the community informed as we start making those decisions.
Anything else on any issues? Give us 1 second.
And actually, with regard to the 0.25 of 1%, we'll just note that in the fact sheet that it is a non-homestead rate. Because a question was asked, what is the cost to commercial businesses? And that would be the cost to commercial businesses.
No disrespect intended, Mike, but you may want to get some PSI help in handwriting. I think we answered everything.
Okay, great. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.